Okay, so this is different. Most third-party companies don't tend to come out with My OC, Please Do Not Steal. And most don't tend to make them a specific, non-popular online store exclusive with an incredibly limited window of opportunity to buy them. Either of those are indications of extreme confidence in the product or extreme arrogance. But it's MMC we're talking about here, so I'm confident. It's Mastermind Creations' Eris Kultur. So what even the hell is this thing? Well, the most obvious answer is that it's a gender-bent Tarn. But when you take the mask off, the face is clearly running some Death Saurus inspiration. Which does make some sense. They were linked pretty heavily in the IDW comic. I mean, they didn't like each other, but they were important aspects of each other's stories. So it's a fusion of Tarn and Death Saurus that's then been gender-bent. Boy, I don't like that answer because it feels like if it's true, someone was beating off while they came up with this. Instead, I base my interpretation off the box, which has a bio that implies that she's basically the Transformers version of Taskmaster, where she can mimic the fighting abilities of the people she watches. Did MMC predict Black Widow? Apparently also mimicking their alt modes as well. So, if I had to venture a guess, it's that 1, Lady Eris is Death Saurus' wife, Esmeralda, currently copying Tarn's abilities, and 2, if this is successful, we will be seeing Lady Esmeralda copying the abilities of other characters as well. Hopefully, those will be a bit more accessible than this was. So, now we've got our answer as to what I think they were at least trying to go for here. Now we have another question. What is the figure like? Well, the look in robot mode is very unique and very cool, and I'll go out on a limb here and say that this is complete and total proof that you can have a bot with an utterly feminine build and still have it be great. The community has built up a prejudice over time against this body design because it always seems to lead to terrible figures in the end. But this is proof that you can pull off this body type if you don't suck. Because spoiler alert for the end of the video, the alt mode is the furthest thing from crap, and this thing does not cheat to get there. No shell forming for this girl, just a new-fashioned genius transformation. But that's not to say that this design fails to have its issues. No, it's got several for sure. For starters, it does have some pretty huge kibble hanging off the back, but I'd argue that this is the good kind of kibble. The kibble enhances the design of the figure. If this stuff was gone, I think it'd actually make her less interesting to look at. Turns out the best way to deal with your kibble is to treat it as kibble and just incorporate it into the design aesthetic of the character. That aside, her hands are a little weird. These are in the same family as the Optus Pexus' hands, but they are definitely the less successful of the two siblings, still living at home with mom and dad. They're just so weirdly flat and unshapely. I like the pointed IDW bad guy fingers, and the posing on them is no joke. I just think the palms really needed a rework. But being less good MMC hands still makes them like the best hands of any figure at this scale, bar none. And they're sure pulling off a lot for being even smaller than the Pexuses. Which is funny because it's about the same size as him. Basically, she's modern big leader scaled. And then you have the mask, which is pretty cool, but I find that the eyes ride really low in it. It makes it look like her face is on the bottom third of her head. Also, this thing loves falling off. Like when I do the transformation, I guarantee you that the mask will fall off several times. But if you ask me, there are two real critical flaws with this design. One is a simple engineering oversight, and the other is a design oversight. The engineering one is in the legs. Dear God, did they make a brutal mistake in these. So for the transformation, the legs can hinge out like this. Understandable, and it works for the alt mode. But they didn't bother building any kind of locking mechanism into them. So in robot mode, it's literally just left up to tension to hold these legs in the shape of legs. And you know what? The tension here is pretty good, but not good enough. So anytime you are using this thing, you have to fight to make sure that the shins don't bend like a soccer player who took a sliding kick. They even bend inwards, which is like, why? Why would you let this happen, MMC? There isn't even a reason they should be allowed to do that. Bending in that direction doesn't serve a purpose in the transformation. Whatever, it's an annoying problem and one that really should have been anticipated, but one that you can deal with. Though it does put this weird little barb on the shin, and if you have bad QC, it could suck. Like, super hard. But I've not heard of anyone's shins being too loose to hold place while stock still. And now I need to talk about the visual glitch that really irks me. Am I the only one who thinks it looks like she's wearing a fucking diaper? I really don't want to spend a significant portion of this video focusing on her crotch, but I kinda have to. It's so ludicrously huge and awkwardly designed, and there's no reason for it. I think the idea may have been to give her thick hips, but it doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like a part of her body. She looks like she's wearing it. The galling thing about this is that it is not required for the transformation at all. You could feasibly replace this part yourself with something smaller and it would transform just fine. Also, the design of these things makes posing a little more frustrating than it had to be since the legs are attached at an angle, meaning that all the movements have to be at a diagonal. It's super weird. You can work your way around it, but it's an annoyance caused by a really pointless decision. But aside from those mostly minor gripes, the look of this thing is awesome. The proportions outside of the groin are super cool, the build and the aesthetic is great, the kibble management is well handled, and I just love where everything goes. Many figures have shoulder treads. Very few have actual working treads for the shoulders. Seriously, check this out. Oh my god, what the fuck, right? I've never seen tires on a figure that spin as easily as that. But no, MMC makes real working treads that flow like water, spinning better than wheels that are only pinned in one place because MMC are gods. As for the head sculpt, it's pretty cool. I don't know that I personally would have imagined the female version of the Decepticon logo looking like this, but it's aggressive and mean, so who am I to argue? Take that off and you have what kind of looks like an evil RC. Is it supposed to? Am I just projecting? Is this just generic enough that it looks like anyone? I have the answer to none of these questions. But I do love the face. For starters, I really appreciate that this has the IDW representation of Death Saurus' visor. I hate the one he had in Transformers Victory. I like the dour expression, I like the cat ears, and the fact that her helmet feels like some mythological beast. Hell, I even like the fact that for some reason she has 6 eyes instead of Death Saurus' 4. She definitely brings the evil with this face. It's kind of a tragedy that this is MMC's OC, because I would actually really like to see this character in some official media. I think the idea of a Transformers character with the outlier power to duplicate others' fighting abilities is cool. As is this design, and the notion that this is Death Saurus' wife, meaning that she is potentially the more dangerous of the two of them to fight, is a fun one. Here you have Death Saurus, feared Decepticon general who turns into a giant dragon, but the one you really don't want to get into a fight with is his demure little wife Esmeralda, because the worst she can ever be is as good as you are, provided she hasn't copied anyone better than you, or can't duplicate multiple people at once. Bonus points if she's got the stats of the best person in each category she's copied. So she's strong like a bruiser and fast like a me. As for accessories, she doesn't come with a ton. She's got her aforementioned face mask, and she's got her double fusion cannon, which I do think looks better than Tarn's, but it's on the smaller side. Sadly, the barrels are not compatible with siege blast effects. They're also really not compatible with anything. It would have been cool if you could steal MMC Tarn's fusion cannon and combine it with this one, or just give her both, but literally all the pegs and ports are different sizes. And they are even inverted between the two. Tarn's barrels peg into the cannon, and the cannon pegs into his arm. Whereas with Eris, the cannon pegs into the barrels, and her arm pegs into the cannon. Oh my god, is this a weird sexual dimorphism joke? So, you know how everyone says the Optus Pexus is the most posable figure of all time, and I kind of rain on that parade by saying yes, it probably is, but it's still a bit over-exaggerated? This might be the best posing figure of all time. Massively more than normal range on the head. Like, massively. Average shoulders with slightly below average cheating. Some serious forward butterfly, an extra joint in there that lets it become an extreme forward butterfly. You can also use that joint to kind of get some backwards butterfly too, but it is a workaround. 2 elbows. One's kind of weird, but it's also really cool and something that only works for robots, but together they get you maximum bendage. Super advanced wrists and hands, serious ab and back crunch with a waist above the abs and a waist below the abs letting you do unholy things, side to side on the waist, hips with maximum kick up and back but out to the side is limited, but you can cheat it for maximum to the side too. It is all on that weird diagonal, but you can cheat that too because this thing has like 3 rotations, so you can still get a straight front kick out of it. Knee has maximum bendage. Broken ankle joint, rotation at the foot, pivot, toe up, toe down, tip of toe down, and heel up and down. Though these feet could stand to be a little bit bigger to give it even more stability, but she is already crazy stable provided you work for it. Oh, and the back kibble also articulates. So yeah, like I said, this is probably the most well-articulated Transformers figure of all time, and it's an OC. There's some wonkiness in some of the joints that's holding it back a bit, but this is still, unassailably, the best posing figure in the whole fandom. Some figures may have some joints that have some more range than individual aspects of this, here or there, but every last figure like that is missing at least one important joint. This isn't. Even the Optus Pexus is missing ankle rotations. Everything this has is way above average, and it has everything. As if MMC wasn't flexing on everyone enough already, we get to the transformation. And once again, they prove that transformations can be like chug-level simple and intuitive, and they can still result in every mode being perfect. Seriously, it's all so brutally simple what's going on here, and yet it achieves more than figures with half-hour-long conversion schemes, only marred by the parts forming that comes with being a character with an arm cannon. Though, to be fair, here it is especially bad, because it wants to tab in with 3 different conflicting tabs that all want to be the only ones you use. And the tank mode is basically perfect. There's no character this is trying to be, but this is so much more of an alt mode than what the Optus Pexus had, and so much more of a tank than what Tarn turns into. Though, how big is this supposed to be? Look at those windows! This thing must be like the size of a city block! This thing does not look like it's made out of a robot, it just looks like a space tank. It's not even an H-tank. It's not an H-tank, people! Every figure that turns into a tank turns into an H-tank because it's so much effort to make that not happen. And it's made out of a skinny fembot. This is proof that it has always been the designer's fault when fembots don't work out. Now, to be fair, this didn't have a particular alt mode based on the show that it had to be. The only thing they had to do was make a tank of some sort. So that is a point in favor of the ease of designing this. But they have proven that with an easy and simple transformation, you can make the most articulated figure of all time a scrawny little thing, and also one of the single most successful tanks in all of the Transformers. And it rolls like so many figures only wish they could. On treads! Because fuck fans toys, they don't deserve their reputation. MMC are the best third-party company on the market. This is an astonishingly good figure. The only things holding it back are that it's an original character, though you can retcon her in as Esmeralda, and they made it just so damn hard to get a hold of. I had to go through eBay because I didn't realize how this was going to be sold, and it was gone before I ever had the chance to get at it. So I paid way more than its normal price due to their stupid decision to sell it through one uncommon store that no one had ever heard of before then. And you know what? I'm not mad about it, because this is that good. This is an ingenious figure. It does so much, so simply, so well. Mastermind Creations just once again shows off that this isn't actually hard. They make everything look so effortless. Like, apparently designing Transformers is actually really easy. Who knew? This is a top-tier figure, best in breed, a crown jewel of my collection for a character I don't know because it's made up by the company. I would give this my highest recommendation if it were readily available. If you can find this without paying an arm and a leg, I say go get it. Arm and a leg was worth it to me, but I always want you guys to save your money. I don't want to overhype this thing. It's got some weird issues with the legs and crotch and the fact that it's a character of no one, but I say that MMC needs to do another print of these because the title Masterpiece isn't good enough for this figure. And that's not half of what I have to say, but it's enough what I have to say. And I know you know what everyone else tells you to do at the end of these videos. So if you liked what you saw here, please do that. And if you'd like to take it a step further, then please share this video with any friend you think may be interested. I hope you all enjoyed listening to me waste your time.